I wanted to do my final presentation on something that relates to my major, and so I'm a psychology major, but beyond that, I guess what stood out to me most in the class was when we studied mindfulness throughout the book, and so I wanted to relate my presentation to, psychology and mindfulness, and how it's like growing, and there's a lot of new studies done on it and how it affects mental health. So for mindfulness, can you guys hear me? Okay. For mindfulness, it's known as awareness, or like a sense of being aware. So that would be your present moment, you acknowledge what's going on in the, currently, not your past or your future, and you accept, your thoughts, your emotions, your mental state, essentially. It's just about, just breathing and enjoying the fact that you're alive, and trying to accept yourself without judgments, because those tend to be the worst. So it's also past the mental health state. Mindfulness is very emotional and physical as well. It can take a physical, health-wise toll on your body in a positive way if you're mentally unstable. So this is Thich Nhat Hanh, I think that's his name. He's a Buddhist monk. He's also a pretty big influencer. He was, I guess, one of the people that brought mindfulness into the West from the East. And his key teachings are learn to live happily in the present through mindfulness. And he opened a lot of monasteries around the world. And so I'm just going to show you guys a little clip.
So the Buddha advised us to be mindful of what is going on. Firstly, because by doing so, you have a chance to realize that there are plenty of conditions for you to be happy right here, right now. And if you recognize these conditions, you can be happy, and you will stop running. Stop running is very important, because many of us are still running. We have run for our whole life, and we have impression that we have not got what we want. And the practice of mindfulness helps us to stop running, to realize that happiness is possible in the here and the now, so that you can nourish yourself and heal yourself.
Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this little clip. The whole video is actually very nice, but he gives an example earlier in the video, and he talks about looking out at the blue sky, and you just focus on, the color of the sky, the fact that, you can see, I guess you could feel the sun on your skin and everything, and how you should focus on those positive things, being able to see, instead of worrying about, your past. And like I said earlier, he was one of the, pioneers in a way, bringing mindfulness into Western culture. So another person that's prevalent in bringing mindfulness over into Western culture would be Jon Kabat-Zinn. He came up with, I guess it's like an 8-step program called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so that goes beyond just, mindfulness meditation. And it actually brings, I guess this is more based for people that have worse mental states, or worse mental health. It's more for people with mental disorders. Another thing that was brought into Western culture would be mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. that differs from mindfulness-based stress reduction because it treats like major depressive disorder, and it prevents relapse of depression, and that really popularized mindfulness in the West. But just to go back on mindfulness-based stress reduction, that focuses more on just the reduction of stress levels. It doesn't really go much beyond that, but they're both pretty good programs. Jon Kabat-Zinn actually is one of the biggest influencers because he funded a center of mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And he developed the program that I just talked about. So with clinical and non-clinical psychology, this is more on the clinical side because it's like an actual program that they've created that has, steps that you take and everything, as opposed to just mindful meditation where you can just do that on your own, on your free time, stuff like that. Mindfulness in psychology relates more to positive psychology, and what positive psychology essentially is the study of happiness. It's just how one can be happier and fulfilled, and what makes life most worth living. Positive mindfulness program is pretty similar to the two programs that I mentioned earlier. Like the first one, it has 8 sessions. It falls more under positive psychology though, because it combines, the 8 sessions, and these 8 sessions are like, the 8 sessions are self-awareness, self-efficiency, strengths, meaning, positive relations with other people, engagement, self-compassion, autonomy, and positive emotions. And all that's combined with mindfulness. And then, of course, there's always mindfulness meditation. So there's a few studies that I was able to bring up. And these studies are usually targeted around, depression, stress, and anxiety, because that's what's most prevalent in mental disorders. So some pretty popular ones would be young adults with social anxiety disorder, and the group Mindfulness and Adolescent Anxiety, mindfulness-based group for those with disabilities. So these are usually based off of people. What I found most was it's mostly for people with disabilities or like young adults. That's usually what these studies focus on and what these programs are aimed at. So, and most of these have had positive, actually all of the 3 that I've mentioned have had very positive outcomes. And I think it's the third one, mindfulness-based group for those with disabilities, is more focused on mindfulness meditation. And during the study, it was shown that after the program was over, these people with disabilities actually took what they had learned in their groups and applied that to their daily lives, and it showed improvement in their overall mental health. So practicing mindfulness doesn't just have to be through a program. There's everyday activities that Thich Nhat Hanh mentions, actually. Like he said, I believe washing the dishes could be something that helps practice mindfulness because you're just focusing on what you're doing. And I remember him mentioning that a lot of people think it's, a chore and like pretty annoying, but if you just take your time, go slow, you're just doing that one thing, you're just focusing on washing your dishes, that's like an everyday activity you can do to, helps improve mental health through mindfulness. And of course there's mindfulness meditation and then the programs that I just mentioned. So the positive effects of mindfulness on mental health include like it reduces mental illness and psychological discomfort. So that's what I've been talking about this whole time, where these studies have shown a lot of improvement in adolescents and people with disorders, once they leave the programs, they usually take a lot of what they learned and apply it to their daily lives. And this has seen overall like well-being improvements and like physical health too, because your mental health can take a really big toll on your physical body. You know, you can, I guess with anxiety attacks, it's like you might like skip a few meals or like, you know, not sleep very well because of your anxiety. So I also wanted to include something a bit personal. So past me studying it for psychological reasons, I also wanted to study it because I have very bad anxiety levels and high stress levels. And so I have incorporated it a little bit into my daily life, where in the mornings or whenever I'm feeling really anxious or stressed out, I'll just take a little bit of time out and like, you know, try to get myself together, do a little bit of meditating, or just do like activities that are gonna take up all my attention, so I focus on that entirely. And it's helped a lot with like physical, mental, and emotional health. As I've explained before with the other patients, what I've noticed is just like better sleeping, like longer hours, and like with my mental health, I just feel like I'm able to do more things. I don't feel too, like, I'm not as put behind by, you know, like anxiety and stress and all that. And just emotional health as well, I'm much more positive. I don't feel as like stressed out or nervous all the time for no reason. And it's also, like I said earlier, I've tried to implement it into like my morning routine or like whenever I'm feeling anxious. So it's turned into a pretty good habit, I'd say. And then the conclusion is just that, you know, it's a very positive tool. It doesn't cause any harm. It's all, you know, pretty good things. And also, I know it's like, it can be pretty difficult at the beginning because it's kind of hard to just focus on one thing. I remember in the beginning, I kind of would get frustrated. I couldn't really focus for too long, or, you know. So there's also many different approaches, which is really good. So you don't only have to do like through programs or just, you know, daily activities, like I mentioned earlier. And it's a very positive effect, not only in each individual, but in psychology as well, because it's brought a whole new look at like mental health, and it's not all just super clinical and like medication related, because those tend to have pretty bad side effects. So I think this is a pretty good alternative for people that have mental health disorders or that are suffering from something mental health related. And it's a safe and effective tool for improving mental health overall. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone of you have question for her? No? So have you attended any formal meditation retreat in Houston?
No, not yet.
Here in Houston, there's plenty of Zen center for you to attend. Sometimes it's 20 minutes up to an hour, or sometimes it's week long.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Thank you. Yeah.